You gotta get Janine Bassinger's recently published book, The Movie Musical, because it's loaded with good stuff. For example, Bassinger reports that when Judy Garland was asked who her favorite co-star was, she never hesitated to say Mickey Rooney. And in 1964, when they had just done one of her weekly TV shows, he took her by the hand, led her down to the audience, and said, "Here is the love of my life." Now, we all know about Judy Garland's personal demons, but when she and Mickey Rooney are together, those demons vanish. So I think watching Girl Crazy is yet another reason why our member Pat Pogue calls so much of our work wholesome. Mickey and Judy win the TMTP Award for wholesomeness. So there's lots of chemistry going on here this week. And unlike that of Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, Mickey and Judy's chemistry glows from their deep friendship both on and off screen. And it was a friendship that lasted for years. They both came out of vaudeville. He was born Joseph Yule in 1920. Then Francis Gumm appeared 2 years later. Once they met at MGM, still teenagers, the studio had the good sense to put them together in Thoroughbreds Don't Cry. That was in 1937, and the next year she appeared in one of his 14 Andy Hardy films. Then our favorite producer, Arthur Freed, stepped in and he supervised their 4 full-length MGM movie musicals. The most famous, of course, is probably the first one, Babes in Arms, also the first of their so-called barnyard musicals. Remember? Hey, my dad has a barn. We could put on a show there. But this week we are screening Girl Crazy from 5 years later, and this time their show is a rodeo. Why Girl Crazy? To be honest, it's because I think this is their best film that they did together. And it's not seen very much these days, even with extraordinary songs by the Gershwin brothers. I want to tell you that it's what showbiz people call a title. Yes, a title, because when it was first released in 1943, the height of wartime, that title was already an attractive proposition because Girl Crazy had been a huge hit as a Broadway musical in 1930, leading to instant stardom for Ethel Merman, as you probably know, and just a few years later, Ginger Rogers. And the first movie version came out in 1932. So talk about a title, right? Girl Crazy is a Western musical. Most of it is set in Arizona. And those shows always crack me up because their songwriters rarely ventured west of the Hudson River. What did they know? But who can argue about that when this one score produced I Got Rhythm, Embraceable You, But Not For Me, Could You Use Me, and Bidin' My Time, all of them performed in the 1943 film. It's very loosely based on the Broadway show with a screenplay by MGM's reliable Fred Finkelhoff. But what the stage and screen versions have in common is that a New York playboy, Mickey, must leave Yale. He is sent by his father to Cody College out west to get him away from girls. I mean, he's ruining the family name. And though he loathes getting up at 6 a.m. and bemoans the lack of women, he falls in love with the dean's granddaughter, Judy, who is the town's postmistress. She views the new city slicker with suspicion, but he winds up charming the jeans off her because he's Mickey, after all. I'm going to beat Bob Knoll to the punch by telling you Busby Berkeley was signed to direct Girl Crazy, but Judy despised him for his meanness, and he wound up shooting only the finale, I Got a Rhythm. By the way, I think that when you get to see that number at the end of the film, you will find that there are a few over-the-top touches that will remind you of Busby Berkeley's 42nd Street. Anyway, Busby Berkeley was replaced by the very capable Norman Taurog as director. 4 members of the supporting cast stand out, for me anyway. Guy Kibbe as the kind-hearted dean of Cody College, who's in danger of losing his school because of declining enrollment until, spoiler alert, Mickey masterminds a rodeo and saves Cody by making the school co-ed. There's also June Allison, who in 1943 was only cutting her teeth at MGM, but gets to share the opening number, Treat Me Rough, with Mickey. There's burlesque comic Rags Ragland, a staple at MGM in those days. He plays Mickey's loyal sidekick. And this is very personal for me. As Judy's cousin, there's Nancy Walker, a terrific Broadway musical comedy star who never quite caught on in Hollywood, though later she became a household name on TV as Rhoda's mother and the Bounty Quicker Picker-Upper Lady. Even though Nancy is wasted in this film, her laconic persona is still a wonderful touch. She and I became friends, and I was working with Nancy on her memoirs in 1988 when she developed lung cancer. I still have pages of handwritten memories. She saw herself, get this, as a pint-sized Ethel Merman. And when she died, Nancy Walker got an editorial in the New York Times. That's how important she was in the theater world. In some ways, you know, the co-star of this film is sort of the swing era, which was going full steam in 1943. Big bands appeared in many movie musicals, led by Tommy Dorsey in this one, and Harry James, Benny Goodman, Paul Whiteman, and others. These guys were huge celebrities in America then. Dorsey's band is tremendously exciting and girl crazy, in part because of the vocal arrangements for the chorus in Treat Me Rough, Embraceable You, and I Got Rhythm, all of them composed by Hugh Martin, who would soon write both music and lyrics for MGM's Meet Me in St. Louis. Warning, there is a brief exchange in this movie between Mickey and 2 Native Americans that is borderline offensive. But it's Mickey who turns out to be ignorant. Now let's focus for just a minute on that Mickey and Judy chemistry again. Mickey is, to say the least, hyper-energetic and youthful, pugnacious, and irrepressible. Judy, especially by the time we get to Girl Crazy, is on the cusp of adulthood, and I think she's more expressive and truthful by now, especially in the ballads. She uses the words to claim your heart. And Jack Valancy, do not miss how beautifully she is lit in But Not For Me. Put the 2 of them together, and it's more than a dynamic duo. It's a perfect one. If you want proof, focus on Judy, Mickey, and a jalopy in Could You Use Me? He is trying so hard to win her. She resists, but you know they're falling in love. It is staged without a false move by Chuck Walters. We lost Mickey Rooney just 7 years ago at the age of 93. For me anyway, he was the showbiz personification of the American dream, in all that dream's exuberance and stubborn optimism. Here's just a little bit of a speech that he gives to Judy in Babes in Arms. We gotta have a great show with a million laughs and color and a lot of lights to make it sparkle and songs, wonderful songs with you out there selling them. And after we get the people in that hall, we've got to start them in laughing right away. Oh, can't you just see it? Yeah, Mickey, even now we can. I'm Bill Rudman from the Musical Theater Project.